Welcome, everybody. Hope you are doing well. We have got more fallout from the big tech censorship, the big tech purge, the big tech banning of U.S. President Donald Trump and all of Donald Trump's supporters, all 80 million of them. The purge of 80 million Americans will definitely lead to serious unintended consequences. And in this case, we're going to take a look at two countries. We're going to take a look at Poland, and we're going to take a look at Russia. First, let's begin with Poland and what they have concluded from the big tech purge and the big tech banning of a sitting U.S. president. Poland set to make censoring social media accounts illegal. This is via Zero Hedge here, and it says towards the middle of this article, it appears some Polish government officials have denounced big tech's censorship of Trump. They are preparing to draft a law that will make it illegal for tech firms to ban accounts. According to The Guardian, algorithms or the owners of corporate giants should not decide which views are right and which are not, wrote the Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki. Mateusz Morawiecki. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Quote, there is no and can be no consent to censorship. So Poland is pretty based. I mean, they're seems like they've got their head on screwed properly. So Morawiecki's comments were published on Facebook days after Twitter and Facebook suspended the U.S. president, citing a risk of further incitement of violence in the wake of the events on January 9th. Speaking vaguely and without mentioning Trump, Morawiecki said, quote, censorship of free speech, which is the domain of totalitarian and authoritarian regimes, is now returning in the form of a new commercial mechanism to combat those who think differently. The owners of social platforms cannot act above the law. Morawiecki added, noting that in Poland, the functioning of Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are regulated by law. We will suggest that similar regulations are also put in place in all of the European Union. Morawiecki's comments came after German Chancellor Angela Merkel said Trump's ban from Twitter is problematic. So there you have the fallout from Poland. And as Morawiecki has said in his statement, he will be suggesting such regulation on a European Union level. So unintended consequences from Facebook and Twitter's actions against a U.S. president. It looks like we may be getting some sort of regulation on an EU level. Is that good? Is that bad? I don't know. We'll have to see what comes out of this from an EU level. Angela Merkel would prefer to have free speech squashed and regulated by the state. I don't have a problem with what Poland is doing, actually. And I think they will be fining tech giants if they curb the rights of individuals. And I think they define a large network as something like 1 million plus, or maybe more. If there's someone in Poland that's more familiar with this law that's being proposed by the Prime Minister, weigh in on the comments. But large fines every time a Facebook or a Twitter decides to ban a social media profile because they take issue with what that person says, or because they take issue with what may be interpreted from what that person says, which is really the crux of what's going on here. Then fine them. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Don't curb free speech. Let people speak freely, but if social media decides to act as a publisher and not a platform, then start finding the crap out of them. I mean, find the crap out of them and do it on very large networks. Do it on networks that have 1 million or 10 or 20 million plus users. You want to let the small entrepreneurs flourish without having these types of fines hanging over their head or being abused so that they can be shut down. This is seems to me that this is a good proposal. I don't know the details of it, but Poland seems to be on the right path. Turning our attention towards Russia, we have this title from RT, which says nuclear blast in cyberspace. Russia warns of dire consequences for democratic values over Trump's social media ban. We have a statement from Russia's foreign ministry spokeswoman, Maria Zakharova, who said a move to ban an acting head of state taken by private American companies, quote, can be compared to a nuclear blast in cyberspace. Now, Zakharova wrote on her Facebook page that it is not the immediate impact, but some long-term consequences that are the most concerning. And she is dead on with that statement. Quote, it has been a blow to the democratic values professed by the West, Zakharova said, adding that the move simultaneously provided both the proponents of strict censorship and those advocating the total cyber anarchy of the dark web with a watertight argument. Absolutely. What is the watertight argument? I've said it a million times. I'll say it again. The U.S. cannot lecture anybody on human rights and free speech anymore because they have allowed their tech companies to censor a sitting president and all of the sitting president's supporters and voters. Point number one. And point number two, big tech has now openly come out and admitted that they are politically biased and politically motivated and that they are 100% aligned with neoliberal dogma. And they will do everything in their power, all the way to banning a president or a head of state if they go against their neoliberal dogma. Two arguments that no one can argue anymore. No one can dispute that the United States cannot lecture any country anymore on human rights, free speech, censorship, anything like that anymore. And they can't, lash out at a country that bans American media companies or social networks because those social networks, lashed out at a sitting U.S. president. So, it is, as Zakharova says, it is a watertight argument now. Yeah, a watertight argument. So the spokeswoman noted that the ban already led to the restructuring of the media market and one of the biggest digital migrations. Earlier, it was reported that the Russian-made messenger service Telegram rose to become one of America's most popular apps as people were increasingly abandoning Facebook and Twitter, particularly in light of Trump's ban. Telegram's founder, Pavel Duran, meanwhile warned that the Apple-Google duopoly poses a much greater threat of censorship than even the biggest social media companies, since it could completely restrict which apps you use. He is right on that as well. Pavel Duran is right because, from what I understand, Apple and Google are now trying to find excuses to clamp down on Telegram. From what I understand, Telegram is playing along and they're finding workarounds. But Apple and Google are now, they're targeting Telegram as well. But Telegram will be a harder one to deal with because they're a massive app. They got a lot of users, and from what I understand, they have very deep pockets as well. So they can definitely fight back. The article says that Zakharova in turn raised some concerns about the present state of the U.S. media field regulation mechanisms that, according to her, turned into a wild synthesis of chaotic decisions, lobbyism, threats, laws, and popular opinion. Boy, Zakharova she is based. She's spot on. So yeah, we could see this coming a mile away, guys. And it's just going to get worse. Facebook and Twitter, they really shot themselves in the foot on this one. But I guess when you're infected with TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, you don't think about the repercussions, especially on in an international scale. So I wouldn't be surprised if Russia really starts to turn the screws on Facebook, on Twitter, and on other Google, Amazon, etc. Keep in mind that Russia would be more than happy to prop up their homegrown big tech companies like Yandex and companies like that. So, and they actually even have an Amazon competitor called Ozone. I believe they just went public. So, Russia now has the perfect excuse to start, throttling down Twitter and Facebook. Don't be surprised if in Russia people that try to access Twitter and Facebook and Google, for some strange reason, find those sites extremely slow or, going up and down and not working every so often. Don't be surprised. They have the perfect excuse. Airtight, watertight, Zakharova says, a watertight argument. So that's what's coming out of Poland. That's what's coming out of Russia. Is it a coincidence that countries that were formerly communist or living behind the Iron Curtain or under authoritarian rules are the ones that now see the techno-fascism that may be coming their way and they're taking quick action against it? Does this shock anybody that Poland and Russia are starting to talk about the authoritarian storm that's coming and are actually now making moves to prevent it from invading their country? Shouldn't surprise anybody. All right, guys, that is the video. Subscribe to this channel on BitChute, PayPal, Patreon, Subscribestar, and Bitcoin. Help out this channel. And of course, go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch, maybe pick up a magic mug. Here's a magic mug with the flag of South Africa. You'll find a link to the Duran shop down below. Your merchandise purchases really help out this channel. Make sure to visit our main channel, the Duran, as well. Take care.